The news was so unbelievable it made his eyes go wide. In 3 months, he was to marry him. His mother had placed a thick manila folder on his desk and then departed without another word. Shaking himself from his stupor, Caleb Hayes opened it. The first page was a photograph and a bio. Liam Vance, 25. The man was undeniably handsome, with a chiseled jaw and a physique that spoke of disciplined hours at a gym, but his expression was glacial. A severe, downward turn of his lips suggested a man who never smiled. Dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, he was the very picture of corporate authority. The current head of Vance Global, young, successful, and an enthusiast of outdoor sports. He was, in every conceivable way, Caleb's opposite. Caleb Hayes, 23. He had a face and build that got him by, but his heart belonged to the worlds on his screens. He was a devout anime fan, a semi-reclusive gamer. More importantly, while he had experimented before, his preference was clear. He was a man who knew what he wanted, and a life shackled to a stoic businessman wasn't it. He pictured Liam's imposing figure and immense wealth. This was not a man who took a subordinate role in anything. It was a vexing situation. The most baffling part was the suddenness of the union. Same-sex marriage was legal, and modern science had made lineage a non-issue for any couple. In a generation that had shed the rigid conventions of the past, unions between men were increasingly common. But with that openness came a casual view of fidelity. Many married couples operated with a silent understanding, their lives running on parallel tracks that rarely intersected. Perhaps that was the key. A marriage of convenience, a merger of family assets, and afterward, they would be strangers sharing a last name. The thought brought him a strange sense of relief, and he decided not to dwell on the why. He was never one to overthink things. He arrived with his mother at the Vance estate, a sprawling mansion that looked like it belonged on the cover of an architecture magazine. A housekeeper ushered them inside. His mother swept past him, but Caleb paused at the doorway where his supposed fiancée was standing. He was identical to his photo, immaculate suit, stone-faced demeanor. Caleb felt a wave of awkwardness wash over him. Liam's greeting was a cool, clipped hello. Caleb managed to return the sentiment, his own voice tight. The silence that followed was heavy. Liam informed him that their mothers had already proceeded to the dining room. Caleb just nodded, at a complete loss for what to say next. The housekeeper, sensing the impasse, graciously invited him into the grand foyer to wait. The conversation over dinner was stilted. Liam introduced himself as if reading from a corporate memo, stating his age, his hobbies of rock climbing and sailing, and a clean record of no bad habits. Caleb offered his own age, then hesitated before adding that he liked spending time online. The topic died instantly. After a moment, Liam suggested that less screen time and more outdoor activity would be beneficial for one's health. It was only their fourth sentence to each other, and he was already being lectured. Caleb felt a surge of irritation, but kept his expression neutral and offered a curt apology. Liam seemed to sense his displeasure, opening his mouth as if to say more, but then thought better of it. Later, in an attempt to find common ground, Liam mentioned that they had both attended Columbia University. This was a genuine surprise to Caleb, who admitted that he hadn't paid much attention to campus life, having spent most of his time absorbed in his online world. Just then, they were called for dinner. Liam's mother barely concealed her disapproval, her eyes raking over Caleb's white t-shirt and jeans before suggesting that, as a man in society, he should consider a more respectable wardrobe. Caleb glanced at Liam's suit and simply agreed. As they were leaving, Liam's voice cut through the air, firm and decisive. He announced that he would be picking Caleb up the next evening at 7. It was not a question. Caleb didn't argue. He knew he couldn't. He just gave a faint nod. In the car on the way home, his mother started to speak several times, only to fall silent. Caleb cut her off before she could begin, assuring her that he understood. She said nothing more, only releasing a quiet, weary sigh. The next day, Liam was punctual. The destination was a classical music concert at a grand hall, and Caleb mentally scoffed at the predictably refined tastes of the wealthy. 2 hours later, he was struggling against a wave of drowsiness, and eventually, he succumbed, his head nodding forward. When he awoke, the concert was nearing its conclusion. Liam observed that he didn't seem to be a fan of the performance. Caleb gave an embarrassed laugh, apologizing for his lack of musical sophistication. Liam shook his head, stating that no apology was necessary. He drove Caleb home and set their next date for Saturday. It had been the worst date of Caleb's life, and he had a sinking feeling that Saturday would be even worse. Saturday was golf. Caleb knew how to play, but it wasn't an activity he enjoyed. Poor weather kept them off the course, so they were confined to the driving range. Caleb marveled silently at the man's dedication to such highbrow pastimes. After an hour, he'd had enough. He went to the clubhouse for a drink and a shower. When he came back down, Liam asked if he was done. Caleb shook his head, instead telling him that he preferred to watch, complimenting his excellent form. He saw Liam's eyes flick away for a second and could have sworn he saw a flicker of shyness, but he dismissed the thought as a hallucination brought on by the hot shower. Liam continued to practice for 2 more grueling hours. Caleb was starving by the time he gently pointed out how late it was getting. Only then did Liam finally stop. One night, 2.5 months into this forced courtship, Caleb lay on his bed and lit a cigarette. He had had enough. These dates, occurring at least 3 times a week, were torture. Golf, equestrian events, archery, squash, concerts, galas, Michelin-starred restaurants. He was certain Liam, with his serious demeanor, must also dislike spending time with someone who so clearly lacked his refined tastes. So why insist on so many meetings? He was utterly fed up. On their next scheduled outing, as soon as he got into the car, Caleb made a request. He asked if they could go to a specific place. Liam nodded and followed his directions to a small, brightly lit storefront in the city. The moment they walked in, a chorus of sweet voices greeted them. It was a maid cafe. All around them were young women in various elaborate costumes, the air thick with the scent of sugar. After they sat, Caleb looked at Liam's furrowed brow and laid his cards on the table. He gestured around them, explaining that this was what he liked, that their worlds were fundamentally incompatible. He told Liam their marriage would be fraught with problems and that if they had to go through with it, it would not be a pleasant experience. Liam's expression shifted, becoming hard. He stated, his voice low and firm, that the marriage was going to happen. Caleb, frustrated, waved his hand in dismissal. He understood. It was time to go home. On the day of the wedding, Caleb stared at the fine black suit laid out for him and thought, what a momentous day. There was a knock on the door. He called for them to enter. Liam stepped inside, dressed in a striking white suit that made him look impossibly handsome. He spoke with a rare hesitation, observing that Caleb didn't seem very happy. Caleb just shook his head. After a moment, Liam cautiously asked if he was willing to talk about it. The uncharacteristic vulnerability in Liam's voice prompted Caleb to speak his mind. He asked Liam to consider his perspective. A man who was accustomed to being in control, suddenly being forced to marry another man. He questioned how anyone could expect him to be overjoyed. He knew there was no bride or groom in their union, but the fine details of the arrangement still stung. He took a deep breath and apologized for his outburst, blaming his foul mood. He said he needed to change and would be out shortly. When Caleb emerged in the form-fitting black suit, an event coordinator led him directly to the altar. He was confused. This wasn't where he was supposed to stand. When the wedding march began, he saw Liam, on his mother's arm, walking down the red carpet towards him. He was taking the role traditionally reserved for the bride. Everything that followed, from answering "I do" to the exchange of rings, placed Caleb in the position of the groom. He could feel the icy disapproval radiating from Liam's mother. Finally, when the officiant said they could kiss, Caleb was still in a daze. A subtle nudge from the officiant brought him back to reality. He stepped forward and stiffly pressed his lips against the man waiting for him. Liam's lips were unexpectedly soft. His eyes were closed, and Caleb felt the faint, deliberate trace of a tongue against his own. A shocking, absurd idea began to form in his mind. He didn't respond, simply holding the kiss until it was over. That night, Caleb was half reclined on the bed, flipping through a book he wasn't reading. The absurd thought from the ceremony wouldn't leave him. He had no idea how to navigate this wedding night. He was almost relieved that Liam had yet to come to the room, thinking that perhaps their lives would indeed be separate. But for some reason, that thought also brought a pang of disappointment. What was the real reason for this marriage? A knock at the door. He assumed it was the housekeeper with the water he had asked for. He called out for them to come in and to please leave it on the nightstand, not looking up from his book. Then he heard a voice. It was Liam's. Caleb's head snapped up. The surprise morphed into pure shock. Liam was standing there, wearing a purple-made dress and a matching wig, holding a glass of water and addressing him as master. Caleb wondered if he had lost his mind. The book fell from his hands with a thud. He knew the slack-jawed expression on his face must look ridiculous. Liam slowly knelt by the bed, placed the glass on the nightstand, and averted his gaze. Caleb suddenly recognized the gesture as shyness. And then, everything clicked. The sudden wedding, the frequent, formal dates, the 2 hours of perfect golf swings meant to impress. The way Liam would look away at concerts, the stoic silence after the maid cafe, the role reversal at the wedding ceremony. And now this. The absurd thought wasn't absurd at all. It was true. Caleb looked down at him, his expression a complex mix of emotions. The silence seemed to unnerve Liam. He asked, his voice wavering, if Caleb liked this, if this was what he wanted. He stood up, his eyes fixed on the floor. The broken sentences and his vulnerable expression made Caleb's head spin. His gaze drifted down Liam's long, muscular legs, and a sudden heat washed over him. After a frenzy of activity, Caleb found himself propped up on his elbow, looking at the tangled sheets and the figure lying beside him. He was right. Liam was in love with him. He just had no idea how to express it, and Caleb had been too wrapped up in his own resentment to see it. He lit a cigarette, unsure of what to do next. He was a man of clear-cut emotions. If this continued, he knew he would fall in love with Liam. Perhaps he was already starting to. His gaze fell upon the torn lingerie on the floor. A blush crept up his neck. Deciding to face the situation head-on, he got out of bed, showered, and put on some casual clothes. He went downstairs to ask their housekeeper, Mrs. Gable, to make them some breakfast. He found her lingering by the kitchen doorway, looking hesitant. He told her they were up and that something light would be fine. Mrs. Gable explained that Mr. Vance had insisted on making breakfast himself. Caleb frowned, expressing his doubt about Liam's cooking skills and suggesting she make it instead. But Mrs. Gable insisted that Liam had been very firm about it. Caleb relented, figuring he could wait. As he turned to go back upstairs, she called out to him again. She quietly, and with great embarrassment, asked him to please look after Liam, and to be more mindful of closing their bedroom door. Caleb froze. The heat rushed to his face. He mumbled an affirmation and practically sprinted up the stairs. They had forgotten to close the door when Liam entered with the water. He burst back into the bedroom to find Liam awake, sitting up in bed and wrapped in a sheet. He was staring at the tattered remains of the maid costume, his cheeks flushed. Caleb hadn't expected him to be up and stood frozen in the doorway. Liam looked at him, then quickly turned his head away. Caleb now knew this was his tell for embarrassment. Caleb cleared his throat. He asked if he was okay. Liam mumbled that he was fine, his head still turned. Caleb didn't know what else to say, so he just told him what Mrs. Gable had said about the open door. Liam's head snapped back around, his eyes wide and his mouth agape, his face a brilliant shade of red. Seeing him so completely flustered, Caleb's own shyness evaporated, replaced by a sudden, overwhelming wave of affection. He thought Liam looked incredibly cute. He slowly walked over, knelt one knee on the bed, and kissed him. The kiss was soft and comfortable. Liam took a second to react, his eyes still wide with surprise. It was the first time Caleb had truly kissed him. A moment later, Liam's arms joyfully wrapped around his neck, deepening the kiss. On the first day of his marriage, Caleb Hayes finally felt that it might not be a bad thing after all.